Howdy, folks. Welcome to the March 2026 edition of Cattle Trails Showcase. Good to have you all with us. March is National Agriculture Month, so glad to have you. I'm Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate. Glad to be your host. The purpose of the Cattle Trails Showcase is to continually highlight the communities, historical elements, museums, and other attractions along the historic trails. And Lonnie Steben is our showcase chair. The Cattle Trails Showcase was initiated 4 years ago by the International Chisholm Trail Association, now is a project of the Historic Cattle Trails Consortium, which seeks to promote all of the historic cattle trails, the Chisholm Trail, Western, also known as Great Western, Shawnee, and Goodnight Loving Trails. I have a couple of news items and a request for you before we start the program. First news item, not news to some of you, the second annual National Cattle Trails Conference will take place in Sedalia, Missouri on October 22 through 24, 2026. So mark that on your calendars, third weekend of October 2026. We now know, too, that the third annual National Cattle Trails Conference will be October 14 to 16, 2027. Can't believe I'm talking about 2027 in Enid, Oklahoma. So it's the third weekend of October in 2027, the National Cattle Trails Conference next year. The other news item is, as you all know, America is celebrating its 250th birthday in 2026. And we're delighted that Congressman Ron Estes of Kansas and Congressman Lloyd Doggett of Texas have drafted a resolution honoring the cowboy and historic cattle trails as part of the America 250 celebration. So we are really pleased that they drafted that resolution. It names all of the trails: Shawnee, Chisholm, Western, Great Western, Goodnight Loving. And right now, they are circulating that resolution to other members of the U.S. House of Representatives to see if they would like to be co-sponsors. And so that's my request. It's a great time to contact your members of Congress, your members of the U.S. House, and encourage them to co-sponsor the resolution by Congressman Estes and Congressman Doggett that would honor the cowboy and historic cattle trails as part of America 250. Feel free to contact me for more information. I'd be glad to send you a copy of the resolution and whatever other information we can provide. I'm going to put in the chat here an email address for me. I hope, and I got it there. But in a minute, I'll be putting that in the chat, and I'll provide and I'll be glad to email the resolution to you. As for our program today, one of the enduring symbols of the American West is the Pony Express. Today, we'll hear from someone who's traveled the Pony Express route, and we'll share about the first part of that journey specifically. He is Orin Friesen from Benton, near Wichita, Kansas, a longtime outstanding musician, radio personality, author, poet, and historian. So, Orin, please tell us about the Pony Express.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Thanks, you guys, for having me. I've been studying the Pony Express since I was in junior high school. I really got into history, and I think it's the reason that I do writing and that I love history so much is because I was encouraged by my teacher. It was either 7th or 8th grade, and we had to do, it was my first ever term paper, and so I wrote this whole booklet, and it did just tons and tons of research. We had to do the note cards and all that stuff. And the teacher gave me a 99.5% grade. And she said the only reason I didn't give 100% because she didn't give anybody 100%. So that kind of inspired me right there. And teachers can do great things, and I think that teacher did wonderful for me. Started studying the Pony Express in 1959, which, of course, the centennial came up in 1960, so I had kind of a jump start on that. And I started putting together my own maps of the Pony Express Trail. I have a huge map that I draw, and I still have it somewhere. I would come home after school, and after doing the chores on the farm, then I would get out my map and spread it on the dining room table and start mapping out where the Pony Express stations were, trying to find out different sites, and didn't realize at the time that so many of the sites of the Pony Express stations had multiple names to them. So it took me years and years to figure out, oh, it's the same station, it only has several different names. Anyway, brief history of the Pony Express. I have about 20 books on the subject, and Michael maybe even has more than that. And so I don't know. Michael Grauer would probably tell me, but I don't know that the definitive book on the Pony Express has yet been written. There's lots of different things, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of misinformation out there. And this is such a small portion of history that only lasted 18 months, and it might just have been a footnote in history had it not been for like Buffalo Bill and his Wild West show and trying to recreate this, which spurred interest in the Pony Express that is still there today. But it probably turned out in history wasn't as big a deal as we make it. It's become so glamorized. It never made any money. They spent about $100,000 to start it, and then they lost about $200,000 over it. And the whole point really wasn't as an investment as much as it was to try to prove that the northern route was faster than the southern route. The southern route, which the Butterfield stage and all that went on, and the other reason it was the Civil War was looming in the near future, and so if they had the southern route, they could have had issues there. So they were trying to find a way to get the mail faster. So they opened up the northern route with the Pony Express. And it was the company was William Russell, Alexander Majors, and William Waddell, and their company was called the Central Overland and Pikes Peak Express Company, and they already had stage lines and things like that. If prior to the Pony Express, to get mail to California, if you did it on a ship, it took 2 or 3 months. And if you did the stagecoach, it could take 2 or 3 weeks. Now, the Pony Express did it in 10 days or less. So it was a much faster thing. The first ride took place on April the 3rd, 1860, and the last ride started on October 26th of 1861. And then ended, of course, into early part of November when the final run made its destination. Of all the trips in that 18 months, there were 308 total trips, around 35,000 pieces of mail. 2/3 of it went from west to east, that's from California to St. Joe, and the other third went from east to west. Now, the fastest ride, which they talk about, was 7 days and 17 hours. That was Lincoln's inaugural address. But what people don't realize is that they weren't going from St. Joe, Missouri to Sacramento, California, and on to San Francisco at that time. By the time Lincoln's inaugural address came, the telegraph had already reached Fort Kearny in Nebraska, and it had reached to Placerville, California on the west side. So it was actually a shorter area that the riders had to run. And that's why they could do it in 7 days. Now, most of the mail that they sent was business and press dispatches and things like that, because it's too expensive for the average person to send mail. It cost $10 an ounce at the very beginning. Later, they lowered that to $2 an ounce. But if you sent it on a ship, it was only 10 cents an ounce. I'm going to go talk about, let's see, how can I get my PowerPoint? It's not advancing. Okay. I have to use this little button down here. The horses that they had, they purchased originally 500 horses and mules. It cost around $87,000 for that. Was around $175 a horse. Most of the horses were wild half-breed California Mustangs, and some of the horses they used were nice thoroughbreds, especially on the eastern end in Kansas and all that. And those horses were purchased from Kentucky, and they had horses in Utah because a lot of the people through the Mormons had a lot of nice horses out there. So, but most of them were Mustangs. Some of the horses were cavalry horses they purchased from Fort Leavenworth, and some of the were stagecoach horses, and some were mules. But most of those were probably used for for hauling hay and things like that at the stations. So the bigger horses, because the actual Pony Express horses were to be no more than 15 hands high and weighed less than 900 pounds, and they were around 4 to 7 years old. And they fed them well so they could outrun the Indian horses. Now the riders, most of the riders were young. They were mostly over 18, but some of them might have been as young as 13 or 14. They were paid $100 to $150 a month, and there were like 80 riders at any given time. And over the 18-month history, there were a total of around 200 riders. At first, each rider rode around about 45 miles using 3 horses, and later they expanded that for each rider to ride double that, so they would ride 90 miles and use 6 horses. Now, the Pony Express stations, at first, they tried to use stagecoach stations since they already had those in place. So they had 87 stations at the beginning. They had to build some new ones, too, to cover it all. Some places where the stagecoaches weren't running, they shortened the distance to go across places like Nevada and Utah and all that. They had to keep building stations because they wanted it so that the distance that a horse could run full speed. And so originally those stage stations were like 25 miles apart. So they started putting stations in between so that the horse could go like between 12 and 15 miles maximum. So they, by the middle of 1861, there were 147 stations, and by the time the Pony Express ended in October or November of 1861, there were 191 stations. Now, I tried to visit all of the stations, sites, from St. Joe, Missouri to Sacramento, California. Frank Goodrich and I enlisted him to do the driving while I did the navigating, and we tried to find each station, and it's took us, Pony Express did it in 10 days. It took us 6 years doing it over segments. So this is kind of a crude map there showing from St. Joe, Missouri up into where it left Kansas and gone into Nebraska. It also shows Atchison there because in 1861 they moved the site from the starting point from St. Joseph, Missouri to Atchison, Kansas. And the reason it shows Leavenworth on there because that's where the Russell Majors and Waddell had their stagecoach based out of Leavenworth, and so it shows that trail up there connecting to the Pony Express Trail. So this is a map from a book that I have called The Pony Express Across Nebraska from St. Joseph to Fort Laramie. I mean, if I can show that in the picture where I'm at. But anyway, I've worn through 2 copies of that book, which was printed in 1960, around the centennial time. So we start in St. Joseph, Missouri. That is the Patey House, was the hotel. That's where the offices of the Pony Express were located. It's a huge building. It's beautiful. It's now a museum. It's one of those old-style museum. It's not the kind of museums that I prefer these days that are much more interpretive and a lot less cluttered. This is one of those old school museums that's just full of stuff, and it's not all real. It just that some people have donated old things, and there's a lot of that. So they have one little area devoted to the Pony Express. It's kind of cluttered itself, and it's kind of supposedly like the office of the Pony Express, but it's the whole. You saw how big that building was, so this is just one little small part of it. It's so big that there's an entire locomotive there with the tender, the coal car, and the mail car and all that. So there's all kinds of stuff in this museum. Well worth visiting if you like history, and there's lots of it there. This monument is outside. It's from the old post office. One of the things that Frank and I looked for, because a lot of places, most of the places, there's no building or anything left. So we looked for monuments and markers, just some way to designate, to know that we were near where that Pony Express station was. Pony Express stables are also in St. Joseph, Missouri. This is also a museum. It's well worth visiting. Looks like, wow, this is a cool place where the Pony Express started. Unfortunately, that wasn't there in 1860. The original building, the original stables, was made out of wood, and at some point it burned to the ground, and then they rebuilt it as a brick building. But the brick building was never there. It's on the exact same site, but this is what it looks like now. Inside, there's all kinds of displays, and this one, of course, showing the very first, or the rider. They're opening the door and letting the rider, hit the trail. The saddles, the mochila, which is the leather covering of that goes over the saddle, has the mail pockets on it. I've seen all sorts of different versions of that. No original one exists, so they've all been made just out of descriptions, and everybody has their own ideas as to what they look like, and so these are just several. The basic saddle was just a saddle tree with some straps for the stirrups, and then they would throw the mochila with the saddle, with the mail pouches over the top of that, and so trying to keep everything very, very light. This statue was in St. Joe, so obviously St. Joseph, Missouri is very proud of their Pony Express heritage. So then they took the ferry across the river to either Elwood or Wathena, but don't know that there was actually a Pony Express station there, because it would have just been right across the river. So they would probably continue on to the town of Troy. Troy is a quaint little town, and I took this picture and I thought this is kind of typical of what a lot of small towns in Kansas are. The feed store cafe with people sitting around visiting, and then the salon there called the Hair Corral. I just thought that was kind of typical of a small town in Kansas. On the courthouse lawn, there's a Pony Express monument. This is one of those monuments that were put up during the centennial time in 1960. Also on the courthouse lawn, there's this giant Indian statue made out of a tree that's been carved into that statue, and that's Frank Goodrich there. He shows up in several of my photos. So it's oftentimes we would either be him or me, just so we could kind of get a reference point. So that's the town of Troy. Next, we look for the station that was called Lewis, or Cold Spring. We couldn't find anything. We found this old wooden bridge, which is where I thought the thing should be. Now, we're going to go back and revisit these, because it was 2019 when we visited Kansas, and we didn't know about all those monuments and markers that a guy by the name of Joe Nardoni put out, and I'll talk about him in a little bit. But anyway, this is all we could find of that station, so we moved on to the one called Kennecuck. And there's a marker like this, beautiful marker, and Joe Nardoni, Mr. Pony Express they called him, he traveled the Pony Express Trail 7 times. He walked it, He did it on a motorcycle. He did it on a four-wheeler. He did it on an RV. He even flew the thing. He's a pilot. And he has done his best to try to mark every station site. Excuse me. But he doesn't. Some people say his sites aren't all correct. But he's done more than anybody. And I tried to contact him during this, but he passed away during the time before I ever discovered who he was and where he was. But anyway, that's one of the... There's a lot of these across the trail, all the way across the west. This is what they look like on the back. There's a little note about what the station was all about. So we at least found that one. The next one is a place called Goatshall or Kickapoo, and we couldn't find anything there either, but it's somewhere around the Brown County line and U.S. Highway 77. We're going to go look again and see if we can find Joe Nardone's, because he placed a post at a lot of the stations. It's a stainless steel post, and you'll see some of these as we move along. The town of Granada is near there, and some people say that was the Pony Express, but it's kind of doubtful. But at least we found another monument we could take a picture of what that was in the near area. It'll get better, folks. Log Chain was the next station, and they were supposedly called because they had to use log chains to get the wagons across the creek there, or the river. So this was kind of the crossing site, so we didn't find any markers or anything. I found out just this past year that there is a building still there that supposedly, and that's this building, and so we're going to go back and find that. Supposedly part of the original Pony Express station is inside this building, but it's my understanding it's only the chimney that still remains from that site. So I found this in a book, and we didn't find that house, but I didn't know about it at the time. So we're going to go, Frank and I are going to try to go back this year and look for that. Next, we come to the town of Seneca, and they have a nice museum there right in downtown Seneca, a nice Pony Express museum. It's not real large, but it's right there. The actual station site supposedly was catty corners across the street where this building is located. And if you look to the right of that little four-wheeler there's one of Joe Nardone's monuments sitting there on the sidewalk. And then to the left of the building, there's it's an older Pony Express monument. So the site was supposedly right at this location. And there's one of Joe's monuments that marks that site. This building was still in existence during the centennial, but it's been since torn down. And it was a hotel there where a lot of the people from the stagecoach would spend I think it was Mr. Williams or somebody had that. And the Pony Express riders would also stay there because Seneca was at some point a home station. A home station is different than a relay station. The relay station is where they just changed horses. A home station is where they would change riders and where the rider would get some sleep before they had to carry the mail back the other way. After Seneca, we looked for the site of Laramie Creek, also known as Hickory Point, and there is a monument there. An old monument. I can't even tell. It doesn't have a date when that monument was built. But now I'm leaning on a post. That's one of the Joe Nardone's posts where he tried to mark the actual site of the station. So he claims that the site of Laramie Creek Station is right there. And those posts there's a lot of them throughout the Pony Express Trail all the way to California. So after we finally started figuring it out, we started looking for those posts. So maybe at some of those previous sites that we couldn't find, there's a post somewhere, but he tried to mark the actual site. So we're mainly following roads, and so we may have to walk, half a mile somewhere to try to find those actual posts if they're on the actual side of the station. After that was a place called Guittards or Gitter. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. So this monument is there, and beautiful monument. It's one of the old ones. There's also a historical interpretation sign at that site as well. So we knew we had located that one. And then Michael Grauer said, we need to talk about Marysville. Marysville is an interesting place because they also embrace their Pony Express history. This is a larger-than-life-size statue that's there at Marysville. Now, I'm going to take you back a ways. This goes back to 1960 or 1961. That is me when I was, 13 or 14 years old, standing in front of the Pony Express Museum in Marysville, Kansas. That building no longer exists. That museum is not there. It was behind the building that was the original Pony Express station, which looked like this in 1960. It was a stone building, but it had been covered over with stucco, and it was being used as a cold storage plant. Fortunately, that has been restored, and it now looks like this. So if you can tell the difference there, they tried to put it back like they thought it looked in 1860. And so the meat processing stuff is all out of there now, and it has become a museum. And this is part of the museum. It's like the blacksmith area where they would shoe the horses and all that. And there's this old wagon in there, all kinds of different things. So it's a nice museum. Not a very. I wouldn't put it in to modern style museums like they have, but it's still well worth the visit to that. These are some of the plaques that are outside on the museum. You see the plaque at the top, and then the one on the right, the round one. Those were put up during the Pony Express centennial time, and you'll find those real cool plaques throughout the different places along the trail as you travel west. There's also, this is in front of the post office, some more plaques. So as I mentioned, Marysville really has a lot to be proud of there, and they call themselves the original home station, although Seneca earlier also claims to be a home station. So a lot of this stuff isn't known for sure. And things changed an awful lot. So they would, maybe one place would be a home station, and then they would extend the route, and it was always in the whole trail, and the stations were always in flux throughout those 18 months. Next, we go to Cottonwood, also known as Hollenberg. A German guy by the name of Hollenberg owned the place. Out on Highway 47, this big marker is there pointing the direction. 4 miles north of this sign is where the Hollenberg station is. Now I'm going to show you what it looked like. This was probably taken in the late 1940s, I'm guessing. They call this the only original and unaltered Pony Express station in the United States. That's their claim to fame, that it's not been altered. Obviously they've kept it up. This is what it looked like in the 1940s. This is what it looks like today. I took this picture to show you what it looks. So it looks pretty much the same, and they've kept it up, and it's a wonderful place. It is now a museum. There's a visitor center a small visitor center that you can arrive at and park, and then you come to this. And you can walk around inside, and it's kind of set up like like it might have been set up in 1860 and 1861. I thought this was interesting. This is a odometer for a wagon. Maybe some of you have seen those, but you can tell. You hook this to your wagon, you can tell how far you've traveled in a day. I think it goes up to 10 miles. but I thought it was kind of cool. See that there? This is the backside of the Cottonwood or the Hollenberg station there. It's a nice little picturesque park that it's in, and you can walk around, go inside. Then that's the last station in Kansas. I'm going to show you a little bit of Nebraska before we stop the presentation. The next station was supposedly called Rock House or Caldwell. We couldn't find anything there. This is about where I think it should be. One of the things that since we started this, I now have gone through and plotted out GPS coordinates so that when we go back, I can get a little bit more accurate. But so it was somewhere around here.
Orin, is that a post there by the pool?
That is not. No, that is not. That's just a fence post or something marking a pipeline or something. So we didn't find the post, but we really weren't looking for them at that time. We didn't realize that there were as many as there were. So as we went along the trail after the next year and year, we started getting a little bit more smart about where to actually look. This is also very near that location. So we found a lot of these old Oregon Trail markers. This was placed there by the state of Nebraska in 1912. So there's lots of old Pony Express, or lots of old Oregon Trail markers. And of course, during this part of the trail, the Pony Express and the Oregon Trail were the same trail. So, so Rock Creek station is very important. This is what it looked like in 1860. Now, one of the significant things about this station was this is where James Butler Hickok, Wild Bill Hickok, killed his first man. The station site is on the other side of that stagecoach there, that log building. And I want to take a good look at this picture and then look at this. It looks exactly the same. None of this all went away, but they have rebuilt it to look exactly. I mean, I stood where that other photo was taken and tried to take a picture just to compare them to it. It looks exactly like it would have looked in 1860. The building on the left, the log building, is where Wild Bill Hickok was hiding out when David McCandless, who came supposedly to collect money because the Pony Express and the Central Overland group there, they had owed him rent money, and so he went to collect it, and somehow they got an altercation, and McCandless and two of his other guys were shot by Hickok and the other guys that were working there at the station. So this is inside. They've kind of tried to recreate that, and Wild Bill Hickok was supposedly hiding behind that curtain, and when McCandless came in, he shot him with a shotgun. So his claim to fame started as a gunfighter, started right there. This monument is there on the site, and then you see one of those posts right there marking the Rock Creek station. One of the wagons on the site, there's a couple of wagons. The big long building behind the wagon is the barn there where they had the horses. This is the post office there. It says Oregon Trail Pony Express Stage and Freight, Hickok, McCandless, and down there it says Rock Creek Post Office. So one more, and then we're going to call it done here, because I had this PowerPoint goes up to this one called Virginia City. This is on the site there in Nebraska, and so it's got some more of those monuments. It was called Virginia City and also Whiskey Run. And it says there that near the site, Indians traded for whiskey at the station and harassed the immigrant trains. The whiskey was dumped in nearby creek, thus dubbing the station Whiskey Run. So that's the end of my PowerPoint point right now. I can see if I can get out of that. And
outstanding, Orin. Outstanding. I love the way you've woven in the historical photos as well as the modern day. Outstanding. I know you're on a short time frame. Questions for Orin?
And in Marysville, did you see that? I'm not exactly sure what you call it. Some kind of a statue where you walk by it and the Pony Express rider starts moving.
In Murdersville?
I don't, there's that big Pony Express statue in Marysville, but I don't remember what you're talking about there, Ron. Maybe I have to go back.
They also had a train there as well, and somebody would explain it to me. Some movie guy kind of put together. It's all kind of with little chips, and it gives you the impression as you walk by, you can just kind of see the skin start loping.
How long has that been there? Is it fairly new?
There, I think fairly new, but it's been 15 years at least since I was there, probably.
All right. Well, I'll have to go back. We are going back this spring, so we'll figure it out. I'll find out.
It's right in Marysville, but I kind of forget just where it is. Kind of a little bit on the west side, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of cool.
Hey, Orin, doesn't the trail roughly follow Highway 36?
36 is, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think I said the wrong highway. 36, Highway 36 is the one that it does follow, basically.
And I think
Seneca and
designated the Pony Express Highway, in fact.
I believe you're right. Yeah, 36. That's it. Thank you, Michael.
I believe Neil had a question.
Well,
yes.
Well, thank you. By the way, thanks to Orin and thanks Cattle Trails. This has been fascinating information. I really appreciate the effort that you've made. And is there one particular book that might be kind of a good beginner book for people interested in this thing?
Well, I can't remember her name right now, but I've spoke to a woman in the National Pony Express Association, and she lives in Marysville, and I'm going to go up and see her this year. And I've had people ask me, what is the best book to get started on the Pony Express? And so I asked her, and she said it is this. Okay, I'll find this book. It's called Saddles and Spurs, The Pony Express Saga by Raymond W. Settle and Mary Lund Settle. It's an older book, but it's got a pretty good history, and I guess it's fairly accurate. There's so much stuff that's been written over the years because most of the original things were written by dime novelists and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that people think, that poster about wanted young, skinny, wiry fellows and orphans preferred, that's all fake. That didn't come around. What book do you have there, Michael? Same one?
No, that's that Christopher Corbett book. And the reason I held it up, and I appreciate you saying about, these sensationalist books that have come out last 10, 20 years, written by journalists who want to be historians, and they're just really, sorry about this, I'll probably get sued. They're just real sloppy. And so the subtitle for Orphans Preferred is The Twisted Truth and Lasting Legend. So if something says something like that, walk away. Don't spend your money.
Yeah, I've got that book as well. So it's like I'm waiting for Michael to write the definitive book on the.
Oh, heck no, man.
You guys should co-author.
Thank you.
You mentioned the Russell Majors and Waddell. Can you expand on how important they are to this story?
Well, I mean, I started to write a screenplay about the Pony Express, and most of it is about Russell Majors and Waddell because that's the most interesting thing about that, and I don't have all of the details in my head at this particular point in time. Alexander Majors was the on-the-grounds guy. He was the guy that was in charge of, getting together all the riders and getting together the stations and all that. William Russell was kind of the executive behind that, and he was the one that would be handling all the politics and going to Washington and all that. And then Waddell, I believe he was the accountant. Am I right? That kind of in the offices there. So they each had their own jobs. You know, Alexander Majors is more my hero of that bunch. Oh, Russell kind of got himself into a lot of deep doo-doo and was I don't remember all that. Michael, do you remember what he got all in trouble for?
You know, a lot of those are about trying to get favorable treatment for government contracts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I was looking, Majors wrote a memoir, and I'm trying to find it, but I can't find it because my catalog isn't working today. But it's pretty fascinating. But he also, like a lot of those old guys, after they get older, their memory starts to get veiled a little bit, let's call it. And so you just got to read those sources really carefully. But the Alexander Major's memoir is still available. You can find it pretty easily. But it's fascinating because he's got a whole chapter about Buffalo Bill. And it's a lot like, to connect it to the cattle trails. It's like the trail drivers of Texas. Eventually those old boys, when they're interviewing 50 years later, the veil of time tends to obscure the details. And as we joke about it, nearly all of them went up the Chisholm Trail, apparently, even if they actually weren't on the Chisholm Trail. So it's the same kind of thing. I think the important thing to remember is use sources carefully. And I so appreciate what Orin and Frank, my good friend Frank, it's literally being on the ground where this happens. There's something spiritual, I believe, that happens when you're in these historic places. And so I encourage you to be on the trail and get as close as you possibly can, whatever that trail is. So really, I applaud your work, Orin. Thank you. I'm gonna keep looking for that book.
All right, and I'll tell you one thing. There's still things that are somewhat controversial because Buffalo Bill Cody is kind of the one that really brought the whole thing to life with his Wild West shows. He claims to have been a Pony Express rider. Some people say it's true. Some people say they don't think he is because he would have only been like 14 years old at the time. But that is not out of the ordinary. And I've discussed this a bunch with Steve Friesen, who was used to be the curator of the Buffalo Bill Museum in Colorado, there at Lookout Mountain, and his studies, he contends that Buffalo Bill actually was a Pony Express rider. I have thought about this both ways, and times when I'm kind of thinking now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that, because he could have done it, and that's maybe why he was so interested in it, even though he would have been only like 14 or so at the time. But anyway, I'm going with it that he was.
We'll go with that. Michael, what's the book you're holding up?
That's the Major's memoir. It's called 70 Years on the Frontier. A Lifetime on the Border by Alexander Majors. Yeah, that's published in 1893. So 70 years on the frontier. And this is a reprint, obviously.
I don't have it.
Tom,
I need to get
last
it.
question, Tom.
Yes. I want to, Orin, wonderful presentation. I want to thank you for mentioning how the Pony Express route followed the Oregon Trail, at least for a while. Because this book by Francois is really quite remarkable in terms of following the true route of the Oregon Trail.
We use that book a lot. We use that book. My book is falling apart. We used it so much. That book was very important for me to follow the trail because those maps are very detailed and you can really focus in on exactly where he thinks the stations were. And so, that was a very important. And it's got a companion history book that goes along with that map book. So
there's another one that's much more recent. Ricker Buck's.
That was fun too. That's a fun book.
It's a wonderful book. I love it. If you want to follow two brothers who actually built a covered wagon and used mules to to haul them. They followed it all the way from the origin around Kansas City to all the way to Oregon, and
It's fun.
it is a fun and remarkable book.
Ron, this is Lonnie.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to honor Orin's time. I think he has a doctor's, or his wife has a doctor's appointment. So if we'll hang on here, Orin, but we understand you need to leave, and really appreciate your presentation.
All
Orin,
right.
Orin, I think we'll give you a 99.5, maybe 100 on this assignment today. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Orin.
Thank you. Sorry, I've got to leave.
Appreciate you.
Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah,
It was probably for Orin, I suppose.
Orin and Michael.
I'm still here.
Either one. Okay. So how do you guys know which book is telling you the truth? Because I've read a number of stories, and you guys say, "Oh, well, that's not true." Well, how do you determine that? Because I find that too. I read one book tells me one thing, I read another book tells me another, and So, was it true that the writers were supposed to weigh 125 pounds or less?
Yeah, that's probably true. I think so. Yeah, they're all small guys. Of course, all the reenactors that do it now, they're all like 200 pounds, and they have the big stock saddles and all that stuff. But no, yeah, I think they needed to be light. You're right.
Well, I've seen that poster too. That they were recruiting wiry young
Orphans
guys, orphans preferred.
That's pretty well been proven. Yep. That pretty well been proven that came out sometime in the well after the 1900s. I mean, well after. Yeah.
It's really like any kind of research, right? Any kind of research, you look at the sources and evaluate and vet and weigh the judgment of the various experts.
But I'm with you, Ron. I'm with you. I've got books too, and I go, well, which one is right? So it's just a matter of. That's why I said early on, I don't think the definitive book on the history has been written yet. Somebody needs to dig in and compile all this stuff and find out the real truth.
Well, and I would hope, Orin, that. Go ahead, Jeff.
I've read that the youngest writer was actually 11, which I question, but I did read it somewhere. So
yeah, I don't know about that, but.
Well, I would hope that we could have Orin in a future segment and go further west on the Pony Express.
I can do that.
Look forward to that.
It gets really interesting as you go along. There's some really cool stuff.
We'll look forward to that.
West by lightning.
West like lightning.
I was hearing a comment. Neil, did you have a comment?
So there's a book called West Like Lightning that's also about. Any thoughts on that one? Or?
West Like Lightning.
Yeah, I've got it in my library, but I haven't looked at it for a while. I'll have to go back and see what it's.
We've picked up some great book recommendations this morning. I appreciate you guys and appreciate you sharing that. I do know we need to wrap up.
I'll see you guys later. Thanks,
Orin.
Thank you, Orin.
So much. Great job. Lonnie, what's up next for Cattle Trails Showcase?
Well, we're going to take a little different approach. It's been recommended to us to help share some of the celebrations in the different communities, especially in this period of time of the recognition of America 250. So we're going to combine 3 communities next month. Abilene, Caldwell, and you're going to have to help me with this one, Ron.
Waxahachie,
Texas, where there's a big cowboy gathering down there coming up. And I was on the phone with David Smith this morning, and he's excellent knowledge, like Orin, about the history in that area, and quite a cowboy poet, as Ron knows. So looking forward to that next month.
Well, thanks, folks. So next month would be April 10, second Friday of each month, as always. Hope to see you then. Until next time, this is Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate, saying thanks for taking time to join us in this place, and come on back next month for our Cattle Trails Showcase. Happy trails, everyone.
Thank you all.